I'm Missy Day, and welcome to the What's Your Story podcast. And today we have my partners in crime with StoryFest and What's Your Story, and our special guest, Sheri Broussard, is with us. So I'm going to go ahead and let Michelle kick it off with introductions.
Hello, I'm Michelle Hausbeck, and as Missy said, I'm her partner in crime with StoryFest and What's Your Story? I fell in love with story many years ago, and I believe in sharing so we can help others. So I'm going to turn it over to Jason to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Jason Gardner. I am a part of the What's Your Story family too. Thrilled to be here today with Michelle and Missy and Sheri. I handle some of the technical aspects of it, so website and some of the other pieces that require the not always consistent technology to support us. So happy to be here today. Happy that the tech will be working for us, and we're excited to hear Sheri's story.
All right,
And
Sherry,
Sheri.
My turn.
it's your turn.
I am Sheri Broussard, and I am just so excited to be here. I am a story lover. I've always been a story lover, but I feel like in the last maybe 5 or 6 years, I feel like I am literally being pushed off the cliff to share a story, share many stories. I feel like I can connect with people and through sharing my story, show them their own. And that's what I want to do.
That's awesome.
I love it.
And Sheri is also in the Story Academy right now. And also Michelle has graduated from the Story Academy, and Jason has as well. So, so Sheri, tell us how old you were when you graduated from college.
When I graduated from college, I graduated from UNLV at 53 years old in 2022.
Nice.
And so, what led you to want to go to college?
So going back to where it all kind of stirred in me, I was 17 years old and a brand new mom. There's a whole story behind that. We'll get into that later. But I was a brand new mom, and it never occurred to me that college wasn't something I could do until one day when I was at a family party. And we were all just sitting around. I was holding my baby, and I was listening to a conversation of family members talking about their time in college. And I just innocently chimed into the conversation and I said, I want to go to college one day. And those my proclamation of wanting to go to college was met with words that literally changed my life. This person said to me, some people are just not made for college. And I owned it. I believed it. I what I heard was you're too stupid to go to school, and so you should just stick to being a mom. And so I did for 35 years. I believed I was stupid. I believed I was incapable. I didn't think I deserved to go to school. And I just wore it like a cloak. And fast forward many, many years and lots of things happening. But in 2018, I was having lunch with a friend who was a mom, a wife, a business owner, and a college student at 37 years old. And I clinged on to this conversation that we were having where she kept talking about being on campus. And there was just something magical about hearing her share those words. And right in the middle of our conversation, I said, Man, I wish I could do what you're doing. And she said some really super profound, deep words to me. She looked me in the eye and she said, Dude, you could totally do this. And I was like, what? Like I believed her for some reason because she's the kind of person that if she thought I couldn't do it, she would say it. And so I just believed her. And so at 49 years old, I started investigating like how does an old lady go to school? I didn't even know. And I went through a series of failures hoops that I had to jump through, back and forth, back and forth. But I finally got in at UNLV at 49 years old. And it was probably the hardest 4 years of my entire life, because it wasn't just getting into school that was hard. Everything about school was hard. Things kept happening. I failed my first class. Like, all these things just kept happening to me. And I feel like I was in I call it universe school, because it wasn't just about the degree at the end. There was so much for me to learn in those 4 years, because I'll tell you, in December of 2022, when I walked across that stage and got my diploma, I was not the same person who started that journey. I am a completely different person. I graduated on the dean's list with honors, and I am not a stupid person. Like, that dude, he didn't know what the heck he was talking about, because I am far from stupid. I am incredibly intelligent. I'm resilient. I'm disciplined. I'm tenacious. I am a whole bunch of things that I would not have learned had I not gone to school at 49 years old. So that's the short version. There's a lot more in the book, and I feel like I have another book on my heart that is supposed to go deeper and more. So.
Yay. So I love the pink cord story. So would you mind sharing a little bit of that too?
Sure. So toward the end of school, it was maybe the last semester, somewhere in there, I learned about this pink cord that you could earn for academic excellence. You had to earn a 3.5 or higher to be able to wear this pink cord at graduation. And I remember thinking, like, whatever, it's stupid. I don't need that. I just need to get done. Like, I had senioritis so bad. I was like, I just need to be over this. But when I got the email that told me I had made the dean's honor list and I had a pink cord to wear at graduation, it literally blew my whole entire world apart. It was actually a very big deal. I didn't realize how big of a deal this pink cord is, and I still have it. It's right here. It's right here. This is my pink cord that I wore at graduation, because I didn't just make it, I exceeded it with a 3.6 GPA. And walking across that stage with that pink cord, my kids, my grandkids, my parents, all my friends, the girl who said, dude, you can totally do this, they were all in the audience watching me, cheering for me. And it was literally one of the most magical days of my entire life. It was amazing.
I just got chills when you were sharing that. Oh,
Congratulations on that.
yes.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Well
And congratulations on your book. So let's talk about your book.
Let's do. This is my book. It's called She Rises High. It's a journey through the mud to find your strength, power, and voice. And this book has been in the making for about 5 years. One thing that happened during my 4 years of school, when I was about halfway through, I went through a very unexpected, very traumatic divorce. I did not see it coming. I was not prepared. Not that you can ever be prepared, but I was not prepared for this divorce. And it just literally ripped the blanket out from underneath me and left me quite literally on the floor in a pile, just in a heap of snot and tears, and just, it was ugly. It was not cute in any way, shape, or form. But in those moments on the floor, I had a revelation, an experience, a vision, whatever you want to call it. Something magical happened to me on the floor. And it was just the lowest point I've ever been. And I knew in that moment that there was something bigger going on. There was something bigger going on than just my misery and all the stupid things that kept happening in my life. And I knew then that I had a story to tell, that somehow this was all going to work out and there was going to be something amazing at the end for me to tell. And I feel like that's what this book is. I started scribbling very shortly after that moment on the floor, just putting my stories on page, not even stories. It was more just thoughts, emotions, what I was feeling, how I felt. And I just started journaling it. And some of the journaling that I did ended up as social media posts, like just raw, real, down and dirty social media posts. And every time I would post something, I would get at least one message from someone who was like, you spoke to me today. I needed to hear that. Thank you for sharing so vulnerably. And several people would say, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. And I was like, write a book? I can't put all this. Who's going to read all this stuff? But I just kept hearing it and feeling it. And so this is 5 years worth of just, I feel like it's obedience, like just doing what I feel like I'm called to do, what my body is telling me to do. And this is my story, and it gets pretty raw and deep and dark, but it's my story to show you your own story. And it's filled with questions to get you to think, and things that I did, action steps that I did to pull myself from that floor to finally say, I am going to walk across that stage and I am going to finish this no matter how hard it gets. I'm going to keep going. And that's what my book is. It's rising high above your circumstances and just rising high above your circumstances and choosing to be happy anyway.
And how would we buy that book?
You would buy this book. You can either go to my website, sheriseshigh.com. There's a link, or you can find it on Amazon.
I love what you say on your website about how the magical mess is where the healing happens.
It absolutely is. And if you could stop yourself in the middle of the misery and grasp that, like there is something else so much bigger than what is happening right now in the minutia of life. It's hard, it's not easy to do, but it is absolutely doable.
Yeah. I think a lot of the times, and we've been talking, it's like we've been talking about a lot of this stuff lately, but in the middle of, I call it the forest, right? We just want to get out of it. We just want
Right.
it to be done and over and, move on. But if you can stop and learn and like lean in,
Mhm.
there's so many lessons and growth and change that happens in the mess,
For sure.
you
For
know?
sure. I think that's absolutely where it happens, because when you think about it, when life's going right and everything's going according to how you want it to, we don't usually, like, I'm sure we stop and say thank you and we're appreciative and all that stuff, but we're not really in the headspace to learn. You're more in the headspace to enjoy or appreciate. But it's in those places where you're just like, oh my gosh, if there is one more thing, seriously, one more thing, I'm going to lose it. That's the moment where the learning happens.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I love your concept of stop waiting for things to be fair.
Oh,
What triggered that? What brought you to that realization to that? Because it's super profound.
I don't know that there was necessarily like this moment where the light bulb came on. I mean, I think it's a thing that I used to say to my kids all the time, like life isn't fair. It's never going to be fair. It just isn't.
Yeah.
But I never had to really like swallow that as an adult. Like as an adult, it's one thing you tell your kids, and then when it happens to you, you're like, ooh, that's a tough one. But it just, it, I think it came to me with I talk about it in the book. There was this whole thing with when I got divorced with the selling of the house. He got to live in the house, and I had to move in with my parents. And it just at the time it felt so unfair, like just so unfair. I didn't like think about, well, you're not working, so it's not like you could take care of the house anyway. But it was almost like this childlike thing, like it's not fair. That's how it was, just this whiny little thing. And then something turned on inside of me, and it's like, well, wait a second. If things were fair, you would not be sitting on a beach in Costa Rica. You'd be at home mowing the lawn and cleaning up pipes and doing all the stuff that homeowners do. And
Yeah.
it just started to hit me like there's something beneficial in the not fair. There's something beneficial sometimes when things are not fair. but you have to, again, like rise above the situation and look at it from a different perspective. Like, do you want this to be fair? Because we could go fair if you want fair. We could work that out, but sometimes there's benefit to things not being fair.
Yeah.
So, and in the book, I use the analogy of my middle son. My middle son was just constantly on that. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. I think he had it tattooed on his forehead because he didn't get to do some of the things that his older sister got to do. And he was expected to be different than his baby brother. And so it was constantly this not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. But what he missed in the whining about it not being fair is the world of things that were so in his favor because he was the middle child. And he missed all of that because he was just so like, she gets to do this and he doesn't have to do that. And I think we do the same thing in our life. Like, he got to have that and I got stuck with this. Well, he's not sitting on a beach, honey. You are.
Yeah.
So it's all perspective. It's all perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think one of the downfalls we have is the comparison, right? We compare ourselves to all these people, and I liken it to like the Bermuda Triangle. Is once you start going into that, it's really hard to get out of it, and you just get sucked in, and before you know it, your self-worth, self-esteem, everything is just goes down the toilet because you're too busy, like you're saying, missing the things that are going on around you that you learn from, as opposed to, well, why can't I have that? And how come I don't have more things than whoever? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I love the way that you talk about that. And so going through your life, because we've talked about your dad, in class and things like that. So how did that relationship end? What was the end result of the relationship with your dad?
The relationship with my dad isn't ended. I have my dad's still here.
Yeah, but I mean, from the way it started with your dad, your relationship with your dad. So how is your relationship now?
So my relationship with my dad was a police officer in East LA for 30 years. So he was very strict, very militant in a lot of ways. And there were just so many things that were his way or no way, and there was a lot of do as I say, but not as I do. And no, you don't question, this is the way things go. And so he's had a lot of eye-opening experiences. He is a very different human being to this day. He has apologized up one side and down the other for the way he was as a parent. And I think the thing that I understood and saw in raising my own kids, that's an eye-opening experience. Like, you understand that parents do exactly the best that they can with the information that they had from their own upbringing. And my dad parented the way he thought was the best way. And he also was parenting from, I mean, can you even fathom the things this man saw at work in East LA? Like, he was doing everything he could to hold it together. And that's where he was parenting from. And so there's been a lot of reconciliation and understanding and forgiveness. And he now, like, I try to explain to people how he was back then, and they're like, yeah, right. Your dad is the sweetest, most cuddly teddy bear of a human being. You're lying. Because he's incredible. He's a wonderful human being, and he's not that you can ever make up for your past, but he has far made up for his past. We have a very good relationship and he's incredible.
So, Sheri is going to be speaking at StoryFest, and so is Jason, and so is Michelle. and the theme is forgiveness. So just quickly, just like a sentence of what your forgiveness story is going to be about. What?
So my forgiveness story is going to be basically about, I don't know if I want to say necessarily forgiving myself, but forgiving the concepts from a very conservative, um, legalistic perspective, and the things that I took and how that affected myself, how it affected, made me shameful, it made me guilty, it made me feel all those things about myself. And I think the forgiveness piece for me comes from just allowing myself to let go of that and forgive whatever was put on me and whatever I chose to take. Because I think that's the thing too. Some of the things that we are taught or come in contact with, we get to choose whether we put that on or not. And so the forgiveness piece for me is letting go of who did what, who said what, who put on, and just forgive all that and be able to move on in a way without all of that, because it really changes the whole perspective of life when you can let go of guilt and shame and all those negative things that you see when you look in the mirror.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to have you speak on the StoryFest stage. I think it's going to be
Yep.
awesome. Congratulations again on your book.
Thank you.
And if somebody wants to reach out to you, whether it's about your book or going to college in your later years, yoga, how can they reach you?
You can always email me at sheriseshigh@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram, She Rises High. My website is sheriseshigh.com. You can find my book on Amazon. I would really love for you to read it, leave a review, and tell anyone who feels like they're stuck and has no hope that this is the book they should read.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on our podcast today. I
For having me.
appreciate
I
it. I
appreciate
love
it.
your stories. And thank you, Michelle and Jason. And we'll see you all next time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.